Hello and welcome. In these crazy, whatever they're going to be times, it is definitely important to be focusing on some positive energy and making sure we're taking care of ourselves and being able to replenish our inner light and just get through this as best we all can. Before I talk about the exercises in this program that I started in January, I want to backtrack a bit and talk about Judith Orloff's first book that I read, The Empath's Survival Guide. This is Life Strategies for Sensitive People. I originally found this book at my public library, decided to give it a read, and after I finished it, decided it was something that I would definitely be referring back to, so I bought my own copy. I enjoyed the read. She has some wonderful strategies for people. There are affirmations throughout it, and it was good to just be able to read someone who actually gets it. Now, Judith Orloff is a trained medical doctor and psychiatrist, and I just want to share a bit from her first chapter, because I do understand that there are people out there who do not actually understand what being an empath is. I've heard various comments from individuals. No, they're not trained, and yes, some of the comments were pretty rude, but so to first understand what these activities and exercises are about, I just want to share the definition of an empath. This is written by Judith Orloff. It's on page 1. I'm a physician with 14 years of conventional medical training at USC and UCLA. I'm also an empath. In my medical practice of over 2 decades, I specialize in treating highly sensitive people like myself. Though there is a spectrum of sensitivity that exists in human beings, empaths are emotional sponges who absorb both the stress and joy of the world. We feel everything, often to an extreme, and have little guard up between ourselves and others. As a result, we're often overwhelmed by excessive stimulation and are prone to exhaustion and sensory overload. On page 2, she goes on to talk about what is an empath. Empaths have an extremely reactive neurological system. We don't have the same filters that other people do to block out stimulation. As a consequence, we absorb into our own bodies both the positive and stressful energies around us. We're so sensitive that it's like holding something in a hand that has 50 fingers instead of 5. We are truly super responders. Research shows that high sensitivity affects approximately 20% of the population, though the degree of one's sensitivity can vary. Empaths often have been labeled as overly sensitive, told to get a tougher skin. As children and adults, we're shamed for our sensitivities rather than supported. We may experience chronic exhaustion and want to retreat from the world because it often feels so overwhelming. But at this point in my life, I wouldn't give up being an empath for anything. It lets me sense the secrets of the universe and know passion beyond my wildest dreams. However, my empathic abilities haven't always felt this incredible to me. Unlike Judith Orloff, I'm still on the fence about the empathic abilities being a gift. For me, it's led to burnout twice. Yes, I am very aware of how other people respond to different things, make some rather ridiculous comments because they just don't get it. It's why I enjoyed reading this book with different strategies. It's why I talk about making sure you're taking care of yourself. I've mentioned my Aura Cleanse spritzer before. I have my salt lamp. There are various crystals that can help. There are a wide range of strategies. One of them, of course, for myself is trying to avoid the news as much as possible. But right now, that is not easy to do because things are changing quickly and you need to be aware of what's happening. So now more than ever, it is very important to be working on the positive energy program. Judith Orloff refers to what she does as energy psychiatry. In other words, she isn't just looking at the physical body of the individual, she's also dealing with those subtle energies. And she makes some great points and suggestions in her book. Now, before I get into some of the specifics about the book, I also do want to mention that on page 8, she talks about distance healing, but she doesn't speak specifically about Reiki. I've mentioned before, I do have 3 levels of Reiki training in the Yasui method. Level 2 is about distance healing. So sending healing energies to people who are not physically in front of you, and they can be anywhere on the planet, literally. The important thing to remember there is you do not do that without the individual's permission. Your heart may be in the right place. You may want to reach out and help, but you need someone's permission first. You don't know what another person's path is about. You may not know all the circumstances surrounding what's going on. So, first and foremost, if you are going to send healing energy, whether it's the form that Judith Orloff talks about or distance Reiki, you ask permission first. Now, in integrated energy therapy, there's a different version, and the concept that if the person doesn't want it, it doesn't go to them. With Reiki, I would specify if the person is willing to receive and if it's for their highest good and highest healing. On page 9, the author makes an excellent point about the words that you use and the impact on people. So she says, I give all patients, new or experienced, a simple way to frame energy on a human level. I avoid buzzwords that trigger resistance. For instance, I prefer using the phrase subtle energy instead of chi or aura. For some, chakras sound woo-woo, but when I explain them as energy centers, people are more able to embrace the idea. Now, that comes up also in a number of books that I've read where the term may be God. And again, for some people, that just, nope, not interested. So the words that you use matter, is the point that I want to make there. And I'm glad the author talks about it here. On page 10 and 11, she's talking about being able to come up with solutions and strategies to move through this world effectively as an empath and not burn out or get overwhelmed. And like I say, right now, more than ever, that's an important skill to have in your toolbox. Our medical system doesn't acknowledge how subtle energy affects health. I've seen many patients suffer. For years they run from doctor to doctor with no relief. Energy provides a missing piece that can lead to miraculous breakthroughs. I've provided tortured, crazy hypochondriacs with centering exercises to stop absorbing other people's symptoms. When we cannot name how we react energetically, particularly to global atrocities that can demolish highly receptive people, crucial components of our behavior are ignored and left untreated. This is why, one, I wanted to review the term of what is an empath, because I am aware of what some people say and why some people are still continuing to suffer if they do not have people around them who are supportive or understanding. Throughout the introduction, the author goes on to talk about the book is broken down into two sections. Part 1 is about building up your own personal energy, and those exercises are from week 1 to week 7. An important thing to remember is that life happens, and for different reasons, maybe you don't finish all the activities during that particular week. So you have two choices. You can either continue on ahead to the next week's activities or just lengthen out the time and readjust. It really is important to do what is going to be best for you. So if you need some extra time on the activities, take the extra time. The idea of completing this is to make yourself feel better, more empowered, and in a good place. You don't want to keep just plowing forward week by week to keep up with dates on calendars, because what's going to happen is then you're not going to be feeling better. You're going to be feeling worse, going, well, I read all of them, but I didn't do the exercises. That defeats the purpose of building up your self-confidence and feeling better. And the author even stresses, if it takes you longer, then it does. Don't bog yourself down in, I have to have this done by this date. Be realistic, be supportive of yourself, and just do it in a way that works best for you. Part number 2 is about creating positive relationships and dealing with energy vampires. Not vampires like Louis and Lestat, but people who drain your energy and just leave you exhausted after your interactions with them. That's week 8 to 10. And again, it's up to you to decide whether you work on these 1 week at a time, maybe 2 weeks at a time is better and more manageable in your schedule. Do what makes the most sense for you and will uplift you and get you feeling better. Yes, I did take a bit of a break between filming part 1 and part 2 of this video. I've now completed week 1 and 2, mainly because, as I mentioned, I've got my Reiki training to level 3. I've had a spiritual path for decades that works for me. It does not have a name. I don't go by any certain name. I just focus on nature, living in harmony, and trying to do the best I can, one day at a time. The first 2 weeks were basically a refresher read for me because I've already done so many of the things suggested in here. But I did want to point out on page 25, she says, certain people give off positive energy, others negative. It's the quality of someone's being, a measure of the love with which they've led their lives. It also reflects the inner work they've done, their efforts to heal anger, hatred, or self-loathing, which poison us like toxic fumes. Energetically, these linger, precluding joy from shining through. It's important to grasp, however, that once you undertake the process of healing, it changes the quality of even the negativity that remains. Don't be too hard on yourself. We're all works in progress. I think that's really important to remember, whether you're doing this program or any type of self-work. You're going to have some back steps. You're going to have some bad days, and that's okay. When I go through my positivity board, there are different sayings I have there that tie in with that, like, don't give up. Great things take time. Every day is a new beginning. Take a breath and start again. In other words, be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up if something didn't go well or didn't work out. Just take a look at it. Some of the things I've mentioned, is journaling. That works for me. Other people have other ways of getting through that. And the important thing is finding out what's going to work best for you. So even if there are different things, whether it's in this book or others, I believe in reading through it and then finding a way to make it work for you. So with this book, like I say, at the moment, I've been reading it because these are all familiar things to me, and they're not activities that I need to do because I already do them in a different way. In the chapter, she also has a little quiz on page 29 about whether you're an intuitive empath. She goes on to talk about, for intuitive empaths, because they take things in and it impacts their health. So there are important reasons to figure out whether this is something that you're dealing with. As she points out on page 29, discovering you're an empath can be a revelation. Putting a name to a very real intuitive experience legitimizes your perceptions. It also pinpoints where you're losing energy so you can regain it. And I want to stress here as well, this isn't just about reading or working through a book. I do want to make the point here that as much as I enjoy doing this type of work, and I personally find it helpful, it doesn't mean I'm not still working with my medical healthcare practitioner. It doesn't mean I stop taking my meds and think I can just fix everything in my head, because that's not how it works. So, stay in touch with your medical healthcare practitioner. Talk to them about your medication, if you need adjustments or anything like that. Don't eliminate that resource. Again, this may be a self-study program at home, but it's still important to have support systems, staying in touch with the proper people, and following through on other things, whether that's taking medication, physiotherapy, chiropractic, whatever it is that you need to do to stay as healthy and productive as you can. Another very important point that she makes, this is called the art of pacing yourself. And that's why I say, find what works for you and work at your own pace. This is about you taking the time to learn about yourself, what's working, what needs tweaks here and there, and improving. And that's okay. We all have things to improve on, and those improvements take time. It isn't going to change overnight, and it certainly shouldn't. So be kind to yourself. Find a pace that works best for you. You may be like me. Some of these ideas will just be a quick read and review because you've already done work over time. Others may end up taking longer, and that's okay. She also, in chapter 2, shares 5 guidelines for discovering your own sense of spirit. So number 1 is appreciate that questioning is healthy. Number 2, permit yourself the freedom to explore what moves you. 3, know what a spiritual connection feels like. And that, just like energy work, you can't read about it and learn it. You actually have to do it and practice it and experience it. Number 4, know what a spiritual connection doesn't feel like. So again, it's by going through and deciding for yourself, is this something that fits for me? Does this make sense? Is this something that I can incorporate into my daily life and feel good about? And if you don't, that's not a bad thing. It just doesn't work for you. And number 5 is flush out your resistance. In other words, be open-minded, check out different things, and like I say, if it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. There are so many different things out there, and information is more accessible now than ever before, whether that's in books, whether that's through YouTube connections, websites, and just be mindful of where you're getting your information. Now, along with that, she goes on to 4 steps to opening up your spirituality. Now, her first step is discover the power of meditation. And a lot of people will agree with that. And there are a number of different ways to do meditation. It just does not work for me. Or at least have the music, incense, close your eyes type of meditation. My meditation is sitting outside and watching nature. So there's different ways to do it. And again, find what works best for you. Try out different things. I've tried the other way of doing meditation and it just is not for me. There are a few that I do when I'm working through the tree calendar, but most of mine is outdoors. Number 2, nurture yourself with silence. Yes, that I can do, and I put a comment here in the margin about libraries. I used to love going to my public library. It was peaceful, it was quiet, it was bliss. Because there's just so much noise in the world, whether it's machinery or vehicles or just people talking, and the libraries have changed. And I get why, they've got so many different programs and things, and they're just no longer that peaceful, quiet haven they once were. So now, sadly, I basically put my books on hold. When they come in, I go get them, I check out, and I get out because they've become as noisy as other locations. So my happy, quiet place is my home. Step number 3 is open to the energy of prayer. Now, prayer may throw some people off. Again, semantics. Whatever you decide to call it, whether it's requesting something, whether it's prayer, everyone has a different way of doing it and a different name for it. So don't let the terminology put you off. And step number 4 is trust the wisdom of the flow. Other people may describe that as trusting the universe. The universe will put you where you need to be. And certainly when you're in the middle of a poo storm, it may not feel like it. But in hindsight, as you put the pieces together, and this is why I really enjoy The Alchemist and Santiago's journey, as you look at everything that happened throughout his journey, you realize that Maybe it seemed like he was taking a step backward. Maybe it looked like he'd made the wrong choice following his dream. But at the end, you can see all the pieces that connected to get him exactly where he needed to be when he needed to be there. And I know myself when I've looked through different events, and certainly not in the middle of the hurricane or whatever you want to call it, but when I've looked down the road afterwards, it's like, oh yeah, that connection, that discussion, that book, that information all fell into place and brought me to here, which is where I need to be. So it's taking that look and having trust that things are going to work out. Now, the other important part to that, and it's up on my card, is thoughts without action equals nothing. So you can't just think about or hope things are going to work out. You actually have to do something. And that was a big bugaboo when The Secret came out. I think it's is it Rhonda Byrne? I'll put the name down below. Same with some of the work by Esther Hicks, which is, by the way, what The Secret is based on. You can't just put your thoughts out and do nothing. If you want to have a certain career, you need to have those qualifications, which means making sure you have the education, filling out an application, and going to school if you need to do some upgrading. There are steps to take. It's not just sit, believe, and it will happen. That's not how the universe works. A sentence that I highlighted here of equal importance: letting go doesn't mean giving up. So I know in the 12-step program, they talk about letting go or giving it up to God. But that doesn't mean that you aren't focused and working on your sobriety or to stay clean if you're in Narcotics Anonymous. And again, people need to understand there's more to those sentences. That covers the introduction, week 1 and 2 of the program. I'll do an update after I've completed, possibly week 4, it might be week 5. And again, I'll just go through and give little snippets of the activities and some of the information. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you do any self-study programs? This is my first time completing Positive Energy by Judith Orloff. I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying the reads. I'm also on my 3rd time through The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I always get something different each time I work through this. Until next time, remember, be safe, be well, and take good care.